Welcome to the Uncommon CEO podcast, where we unpack the mindset, skills, and wisdom it takes to become an uncommon leader in a common world. With your host, the Uncommon CEO himself, Andrew Smart.
All right, Andrew, back for another edition of the Uncommon CEO podcast.
Always excited to be here. I did have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Our producer, Nathan, what do you think about him?
I think he's a swell guy.
He's a swell guy, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a, what do you really like about Nathan?
Well, I like that Nathan always comes prepared, that he takes the time to also improve himself. He tells us about the books he's been reading or the podcasts he's been listening to or things that inspire him. And I think that helps inspire us and gravitate towards good conversations around it.
I'm going to tell you something that as I've gotten to know Nathan in this journey, I talked on a podcast about a lot of traits of uncommon leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I finished off with authenticity, and so being authentic. And I find Nathan to be a very authentic guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think he, his values and beliefs line up to authenticity. He believes what he says, and that's where I see him. That he's obviously a guy who. That's right, Nathan. We're talking about you in case you're wondering. I want you to know that. So, but find him to be authentic, and I value that. He does what he says. I mean, he shows up. He has things prepared. He's flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we got to make some changes in here, and he's like that. So I, just so you know, Nathan, I appreciate you.
Thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome. Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Well, we got to go back to a show here, so we got things to do and things to talk about. But I want you to know that, Nathan, because it's a behind the scenes people that nobody ever sees. That makes all these things happen. I mean, all the editing, all the.
Not everybody can be this pretty for the camera. So
man. I mean, he's got a nice looking guy there. I mean, so. But no, I wanted to just make a point to say that. But what I really had on my mind today was the word greatness.
Mm-hmm.
And Matt, when I just toss out greatness to you, where does that take your mind?
Professional athletes, world leaders, people that have inspired movements. Really the upper echelon of people and their influence is probably where greatness takes me.
So the influence, and we've talked about influence before because influence can be positive or negative.
Mm-hmm.
I recently heard some people talking about influence, and they were bringing up different athletes. Since you brought up athletes, they were bringing up athletes. And if I had to ask you about a few different athletes, if I threw out Antonio Brown,
yeah,
would you tell me that he was a great wide receiver?
Terrific wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean his skills, his abilities, made things. But and so you would say he's great. But what if I asked you? I said, tell me about his influence.
I would say he has put a negative influence out in the world, and probably if you had kids looking up to him, not a good inspiration for others.
Okay. If I brought up Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm. He's the GOAT.
The GOAT.
Yeah.
Hard to beat that.
Yeah, yeah. And I'd say generally a good influence. I mean, he's, work ethic to an extent, humility. Like, he's got some good traits he's put out there. He's a former Michigan Wolverine. So
we won't hold him that against him.
A little partial to that side of things. But, yeah, I'd say good influence.
Tom Brady, I would say absolutely great influence. I mean, a guy that, you look at, nobody's perfect. But you'd say, okay, this guy is a great influence. I mean, if you look at guys he played with, Gronkowski, I mean, you'd say he
lifted him up around him, yeah.
Yeah, he'd say that. Okay, if I asked you about Terrell Owens.
Probably the same thing. I think humility was not in his vocabulary necessarily. I don't remember a whole lot of terrible influence coming out of T.O., but I do think he was a bit of a showboater in his day.
He was, and he great athlete. I think a little better in some of his things than Antonio, but great athlete. But every program, every team he went to, there was always some issue.
When the locker room's a problem, everywhere you go, you're the problem.
Of course.
Yeah.
I recently saw a video of Terrell Owens. The guy's like 50 now.
Mm-hmm.
God, looks like a stud.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
And he was racing a guy on a track, and I'm like, good Lord, man. You talking about, it's hard work on one end, but genetics on the other end, man.
Yeah.
This guy at 50 could outperform guys half his age.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no doubt that they were greatly gifted. Okay. Yeah. Greatly gifted. But the mindset of greatness and greatly gifted don't always go together.
Jalen Hurts is a good example. He just got the biggest payday of any.
Yeah, what was it? I didn't see that.
Oh, $350 million over something like 8 years, I want to say. It was a large sum, and it wasn't guaranteed money was the big headline because of what Lamar Jackson's going after. But his quote to it was, money doesn't mean anything, championships. Because they asked him, why didn't you push for a fully guaranteed contract? And he said, money isn't my motivator. It's my team and getting championships as a team, it's the motivator. So he was able to structure a contract that allowed them to maintain players, to do team building. And
he cared about the program more than himself.
Yeah.
Love that. I actually liked Jalen Hurts all the way in college days. Clemson, we played against him.
Didn't like him when he was in Alabama.
Yeah, but we beat him.
Yep.
We beat him, for the national championship. But what I valued seeing him is when Tua came on and he ultimately became the backup to Tua, he did it with class. Yeah. And then he got the opportunity to be put in there, and he won the SEC championship.
Yep.
And, and then made a choice, a business choice. It was fine, he'd go to Oklahoma. And watching him in the NFL, where, that money plays a big role. It's a business. Mm-hmm. But watching him, how he handled himself going into the Super Bowl, I was rooting for him, actually.
Yeah.
And I would like to see that and I like some Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes, a great guy. But that's inspirational to me, that's his mentality. And I can tell you, that mentality and the way he's approaching it, they're going to be great.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're going to have a great locker room because they got a great leader. Mm-hmm. And the team around him will rally around him because he didn't make it about him.
True.
And that's what that's what you see in great leaders, that whether it's sports or whether it's business or whether it's politics, when you see greatness, okay, you see people who aren't doing something for just about them. And so I got a great quote. I love Martin Luther King for a lot of reasons, okay? And I love other leaders that I kind of put in this, kind of like what we talk about GOAT box of leadership, is that every person I have in my GOAT box of leadership, what you find in them is that you see that they valued beyond themselves. They often battle personal challenges, but they were willing to do what others won't do, and they had this ability to motivate to take people to higher level. And so there's this quote here that says, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in the moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands of times of challenge and controversy." And I'll say that again. Comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. I think about that to my life, Matt, and I think about, that been challenged in a lot of ways. I've battled, some personal battles, things, that but I've never walked away from what I value, what I believe in, what I desire to do. And I think the formula and the basis and the foundation of greatness is all about, not perfection, but who you are on the inside. You mentioned the word GOAT. You probably put Michael Jordan in GOAT.
Him or LeBron, depending on who you ask.
Man, I can tell you this: that you and I have had some controversy right now because I understand LeBron is an amazing gifted athlete. But you know what I've noticed throughout the journey of LeBron versus Jordan? LeBron loves getting into controversy issues. He loves taking his play. He will jump into things in our tweet, world. I've never seen Jordan very much rarely get into controversy. I mean, LeBron loves attracting it. I'm not faulting him. He's a great athlete. He's a great, and while I might not believe in all the things that he does, I think sometimes that LeBron spends more energy into that arena. That's me.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Jordan, it's kind of like when I watched an interview with Jordan one time about greatness. And they were saying, "Hey, man, you're the GOAT." He said, "Well, I'm not. I mean, I don't know how you can really say that, because there's a lot of guys the Will Chamberlains, guys that played before me." He said, "It's not really fair. I never played against these guys."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Bill Russell played.
Bill Russell, he brought up that guy. He's like, I never played against those guys. So is it really fair to label me as the greatest of all time when you had these different eras of people that I had nothing to do with? And so I thought I saw a level of confidence and humility. Look, you can't be great if you're not confident. But and so that matters. But what I've liked about always watching Michael Jordan is he has confidence, but he's always about, hey, man, these other guys are just as good. But the other side of that is that, has there ever been any controversy?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I remember in Jordan's day where there was this controversy one time, him gambling on the golf course.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of gambling going on there.
Well, there's a lot of gambling. Well, it's relative, Matt. It's relative, I mean,
yeah.
Their level of gambling versus our level of gambling is relative.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that gambling, there was, there's been controversy in his personal life. I mean, he's gone through some personal life, but who he is and what his influence to basketball.
Mm-hmm.
What has he done?
Well, I mean, he's at one point had the most scoring of all time, 6 rings with no losses. I mean, it's hard not. He is one, if not the top basketball player of all time. Yeah.
I think he totally changed everything. I recently went and saw, if you hadn't seen it, have you gone to see the movie Air?
No, I saw The Last Dance, so I got a good dose of Jordan through that. I haven't seen Air yet.
Great movie.
Okay. Great movie.
It's less about Jordan, more of, what Phil Knight and I can't remember the guy who was the main guy who Matt Damon played. Became the guy who believed in this deal. It was a great movie. Matter of fact, it's a movie I was like, I had to go see again.
Mm-hmm.
Took Jew and the kids. I mean, I'd go see it again. It was very inspirational.
Mm-hmm.
But that you saw that the level of greatness of what would ultimately change an industry and getting people to believe in it. And so, I mean, you owned Air Jordan. You probably own some now.
Yeah, I mean, his whole deal with Nike was fascinating, and how many that he took a risk to go with Nike, and it paid off in spades, absolutely, because they found the right way to partner up with him when everybody else was just throwing money at him. They gave him a different pathway.
Well, what you learn from this movie, Jordan wasn't the one that was great. It was his mom.
Mm-hmm.
And in what his mom believed that she would be. Because she, by the portrayal of the movie, is the one who basically negotiated and got them. Mm-hmm. And she basically said, my son's going to change everything. At the time, Converse and Adidas actually were kind of like the bigger brand.
Yeah. There's the Magic Johnson HBO special where he ended up going with, I think, Reebok or one of the other ones, and passed on Nike and kicked himself for it forever. Yeah.
Yeah, but she took, but it wasn't about, it wasn't about just the money. It was about what she believed her son would be.
Mm-hmm.
That is about understanding greatness. She believed in something that wasn't about her, and she was willing to go fight for it. Cool movie. So I encourage you to go watch it.
But, yeah, for sure.
But when we look at greatness, okay, and we look at, what greatness is in our own lives. I mean, I think, most people have a desire to be great at something.
Mm-hmm.
They have a desire to be great at something. I mean, probably in your heart, you desire to be great at your woodwork, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You get a little bit better every day, but there's always so much more to learn.
When you look at greatness, what is it inside of us that drives that thing that wants us to be great? Why do I want to be great at being a business leader, an entrepreneur? I mean, what is it that drives us? I mean, what do you think that is, Matt?
Man, it depends so much on the person. Some people are just intrinsically driven to just want to better themselves. Some people want to impress others. Some people want to do it for the money. It just depends, but you're not going to be great unless you have that drive, and that drive never goes to sleep.
I've done this before in meetings, and you've seen me do it before in meetings. When I ask people, hey, do you want to make a difference? Hey, do you want to be impactful? Hey, whatever it is you want to do, you get a collective answer. Of course, yes. Do you want to grow? Do you want to evolve? I mean, you get a collective yes. If I go into a meeting or I take a group of people and said, hey, do you want to be great? The collective answer will probably be yes, right?
It always is. Nobody's going to say, nah, don't really feel like being great.
Well, here's the funny thing. I think when people say they want to be great, they believe they want to be great.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens in life is that we are so driven by comfort and convenience. We are so sold by comfort and convenience that we end up having a desire for greatness, but an inability to achieve it. We have the desire, but we lack the ability.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think about when I come back to people who are uncommon, people who who change things, and it doesn't have to be at the Michael Jordan level or the LeBron, because I don't want to take anything about LeBron. Hey, they both have a cartoon movie.
This is true. They do.
and so they, if Kobe is alive, he'd probably be arguing against both of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And so, but sticking to greatness is that, and this convenience and comfort deal, people want that, but we're so wired to not believe we can do it. I hear this all the time, especially when my kids were younger. Moms who battle this desire and challenge to be a great mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Desire and challenge to be a great mom. I mean, if you were to ask your wife, she probably has a desire to be a great mom, right?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Does she ever question herself as a mom?
Yeah, I'm sure there are times.
I'm sure there's a lot of times, if she's like every normal mother,
Yeah.
they question themselves. One, because kids by nature are not going to affirm you anyway.
They do not.
And so, they'll give you headaches, but they won't give you affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
And so, no, we have inside us desire to be great at something.
Mm-hmm.
That we want to know that we go through life. And hey, even the person, I think sometimes, Matt, where we operate and work here in the city, sometimes you see some homeless people.
Yeah.
They go by. Often, when I've looked out the window, there have been times I've thought about that person's life.
Mm-hmm.
How did they get there? What steps in life did they go through that brought them to this point in life? There's a guy that I actually bought him something at Starbucks one time.
Mm-hmm.
Seen him for years. Hadn't seen him recently, but seen him for years. He always equated to me as like an old Vietnam vet.
Mm-hmm.
Had this beard and kind of like some of the older fatigues. And I remember thinking, when I was seeing him, I was like, something tells me that this guy's life wasn't always this way.
Mm-hmm.
So what took him from here to here? Because I believe that there's an innate desire from every person to want to be great. And I think when I looked at that guy, or I looked at other ones, I'm like, I think that homeless person at some point in their life wanted to be great at something.
Yeah, sure.
But there were things in life situations, in life that led them to believe the best I can be in life is live under that bridge. I mean, but yet, that person had a desire to be great.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you go back to looking at what we identify as greatness, I don't think it's really a desire. I think everybody has a desire for it. But not everybody has the willingness to take the steps to be it. And then you have to measure it. I mean, greatness is not measured by those who are the loudest and the biggest. They're measured by, hey, like Jeanette, who works with me. That's not an easy job. You got to deal with me.
It'd be an interesting job.
Mm-hmm. It's when you got to work with someone and you're an assistant to someone like me and you're dealing with a lot of things. I mean, but the real question is you do based on your heart. If you have a desire to be great at any level, then you'll do great, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But if you don't have that willingness and that desire and that commitment, then you won't be. So I look at uncommon leaders and I look at uncommon people, and what I have found is that innately they have that desire to be great, but more importantly, they follow through with it.
Yeah.
They want a life, and they're going to be determined to have a life that at the end of the day, that they know that they made an impact at whatever level. And greatness is in that. It goes back to this quote, okay? The ultimate measure of a man or a woman, okay, is not where he stands in the moments of comfort and convenience, but where they stand in times of challenge and controversy. That is the key. What do they do in the times of adversity? Unfortunately, I bring up the kind of homeless where they went through adversity and then they settled to this life of choosing to live in a way that they didn't have to live.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and here's the deal. That person might live in that way physically, but I think too many people live in that way mentally.
Yeah, where if you don't, once you give up hope, you've given up the opportunity to grow.
Hope is the most powerful and one of, if not the most powerful word in the world, in the dictionary. We often say in business, hope's not a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
But what strategy do you have if you have no hope behind it?
Oh, yeah. You're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah. Hope. Hope is a belief that no matter where you're at, you can, one, overcome, but more importantly, you can be great. Man, I lean on hope so much. I know I've got, all the action things that got a tapping behind it, but man, I want to wake up every day with hope. And the day that I don't wake up with hope is probably a day I shouldn't wake up.
Sure.
I mean, it's funny. I've made this statement when I found myself in that ability to not breathe, and in my mind I'm thinking this is it, but also in my mind I did have hope.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like when I grabbed that spoon. I mean, I had hope that I could get through this. That's a fighting mentality. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going down without a fight. See, I mean, you can have hope all day, but if you don't fight, okay, greatness is a fight every day. And it's a commitment to the fight. Hey, I have a belief, Matt, that we got some of the projects and brands and things that we're working on that can be great, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think Taste the South is a great brand. And I have hope in what it can be. But it can't be done in convenience, can it?
Yeah, we got to work every day on every element to be great.
Every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I come back to, this is the foundation of greatness. It is a mentality and an understanding that, yes, I'm going to go through controversy in life. I'm going to have people who don't believe. I'm going to have naysayers. I'm going to have people that quit on me. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have failures. I'm going to find myself in a mirror checking myself constantly. But am I willing every day fight for it? Greatness has to be fought for. as much as it has to be believed in. You know, it's the whole idea of faith, a biblical statement of faith. You can say you have faith all day, but what's your action behind it?
So, Andrew, one thing we like to do as a wrap-up device is it's 4th and goal. What is your advice on how somebody can start being great today?
Let me come to you with this answer. I heard Pandora's box referenced once, and you know, the girl opens up Pandora's box. Are you familiar with Pandora's box?
Yeah, for sure.
And when the box is opened, there's all these negative things coming out of the box, and all the things, you know, that are truly detrimental into what we can be and who we can be. But once they're out of the box, inside the box is the word hope, and greatness is surrounded with that word hope.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot have greatness without hope. You know, it's literally in hope and greatness are also met with extreme challenges.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Frederick Douglass, and one of the greatest statements that he ever said, and this is a guy who went through tremendous adversity in life.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, he looks at, you know, that challenge, and you know, in this hope, and he's like, struggle, life is a struggle. Nobody cruised their way up to the mountain of greatness.
Nope.
They struggled their way. They fought their way. They knew that the future of greatness and progress, I mean, that's what uncommon people do. They go against adversity. And so he said, you know, where there's no struggle, there's no progress. And the other person that, you know, that Les Brown, you know, had a statement, you know, about adversity. Do you believe, Matt, that you can have greatness without adversity?
It's not going to happen.
No, he said struggle. So you can't have greatness without adversity. And I remember, so you bring up 4th and goal. In the land of greatness, there's going to be great adversity. You know, at 4th and goal, what I want to say here is not about a play, but about a mentality. And in the land of greatness and of bringing, you know, that greatness to fruition, crossing the line. Les Brown said, you know, that what does adversity do? He said adversity introduces a man or woman to themselves. And if you don't have that belief of greatness within you, how are you ever going to achieve any greatness?
Thanks for joining us today on the Uncommon CEO podcast. Subscribe to our show wherever you get podcasts. We have video episodes on our YouTube channel and more uncommon wisdom on our social media. Find all our links and resources at uncommonceopodcast.com. For Andrew Smart and all of us here at the Uncommon CEO, stay uncommon.